apparently, jihadis beat students with sticks in a university in Amsterdam. Let's watch. Watch. So you saw the cop. He's standing here and doing nothing, right? Doing nothing. Does he even have a gun? This is Amsterdam. I don't know if their cops carry guns. I would assume they're not retarded, so sure. I mean, to be fair, he's at a protest and he's alone, so maybe he doesn't. That's why he's not doing anything. But of course, I mean, what is he gonna do? Like blast into the fucking crowd of dudes with sticks? I mean, realistically, like that it's not good PR, right? Look at that. Oh, that was a nasty one. So this cop literally just witnessed, not to mention whatever the fuck was going on over there, but he just witnessed this. Threats, assault with a deadly weapon. Assault with a deadly weapon. So he's at least 3 crimes, possibly more, because they're talking in Arabic, and I don't know if they're making threats or not. They're removing a boulder in Wisconsin because it's racist. Yes, I think I heard about that. It's been an ongoing thing. It's ridiculous. Yes.
Hey, Chucky. Whoa.
The boulder feels conflicted about fighting a young blind girl. I know, right? Thanks for the follow. Pandaman. Greetings and salutations, my friend. So yeah, I mean, at least he gets, okay, so he's got backup now. I've definitely seen people call this cop a coward. Just like, bro, you've got like an entire mob of people around you. You're there to maintain order, not risk your life and be stupid, right? No, risk your life by being stupid. Let me rephrase that. Now, if he had a gun, that would be a little bit different. Welcome to England, I know, right? I don't know if the cops in Amsterdam have guns or not. I can't really tell. The footage is kind of tasers, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so this shit is unacceptable. Just period. There's no reason for this. None at all. You know, North Carolina and Texas ban Sharia law. Did you know that the United States Constitution bans Sharia law by existing? Sure did. Yep. Okay, let's get into... I want to touch on... So, we saw this, right? Now, you know famous right-wing pundit Brianna Wu, right? The trans individual who is now who identifies as female. And I said that ironically. She is not right-wing. But the reason I said that is because she is correct in this statement, and she will obviously be labeled a fucking Nazi for saying it. It's an uncomfortable talk. It's uncomfortable to talk about, but I think our immigration policy needs to screen this. What is the point of bringing people into the country that have political mission to tear it down? In Dearborn Heights, participants openly say they plan to take down the West. The American empire must fall. People are willing to fight and put their lives on the line to bring these Western empires down. Look at this motherfucker. He's literally a fucking hipster.
Going to be more of the message that should be sent to the people here, in that they have achieved victory. We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning.
Since the beginning. So since the beginning, when the Northern African Barbary states were, I don't know, enslaving United States sailors, does that count too? Were we oppressing you then as well?
They must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
And there you go. And I 100% agree. And this is why we need to have, like, this is the thing that kills me about our current immigration system and how it's been let become. But basically, it feels like when the previous administrations allowed the border to be surged and allowed people to come, and especially when they changed how asylum works, where you can cross the border illegally, come here illegally, and essentially be a criminal inside the United States the entire time you're here. And then when you're found out, then you can claim asylum. And they'll actually let you do that. And they'll give you a phone, they'll give you a court date that's like 2 to 10 years down the road. Average is 5 years, I believe. And then they just let you back into the United States. Just to roam the fuck around. And I don't know, in some places, do they like give them the ability to work like legally and stuff like that? Like that's the thing, is it's like the system was literally abused with weaponized incompetence to make it so untenable that there's really nothing we can do about it. That I really feel like that was the point specifically. So there's nothing that we can do about it that does not require breaking rules. Now, that's not what Brianna is talking about. But this is an uncomfortable conversation that the left has to have, and I think it's because they're so, for so long, the blue team has basically spun itself in such a fucking circle that any criticism of brown people is considered racism, right? If you disagree with the Arabs who want to destroy your Western empire, you're a racist, right? This is the thing. If you bring up the fact that these people will commit acts of literal terrorism, you know, by its definition, they will fucking murder people and beat them in the fucking streets, as Amsterdam is the example of today. And this is hashtag not all Muslims, obviously. Just like Christians who blew up abortion clinics don't represent the vast majority of Christians, no matter how much they fucking carried water for those motherfuckers. Good news, my walker pad has arrived. I was worried it'd arrive next week when I'm at work. Go for a walk while standing at my desk. Yeah, I had one of those and they suck ass. I've had 3 of them and every single one of them broke within a few weeks of me starting to use them. And I've had to get refunds for every single one. And I honestly believe it's just because they're cheap Chinese shit and they literally don't care. Because the vast majority of people who buy walking pads don't end up using them. I think that's really what the business model is they sell this fantasy of, oh, you can, you know, walk under your desk. And like literally mine was supposedly rated for 300 pounds, right? Up to like 5 miles an hour, right? I never took it above like 2.5 and I weigh 200 pounds, right? 215 now. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I hated it. I hated it. Amazing battle. Greetings and salutations. Saw a video of a kid who was abandoned at the border after ICE came for his parents. He was holding a brand new iPhone, some nice clothes on. Yeah, it happens. What's a walking pad? Basically a treadmill that goes under your desk. It doesn't have like a bar on it, and they're not really made for running. They're made for walking. And I haven't been able to find any that are not like cheap Chinese junk. But that's just because I've been looking mostly on Amazon, so I really haven't, you know. I keep wanting, like I said, I keep giving it a try, and every single one, no matter how much they hype up how good it is, they all fucking break. Yeah, and I have no idea why, right? They all end up seizing up, and I think it's because they don't want you to actually use them on the regular as exercise equipment. What they want you to do is they want you to buy it, take pictures of it that you're going to work out, and then maybe you work out it once or twice and then you never touch it again, or you only bring it out like, you know, once a month or something because you're lazy, right? I think that's the idea behind their product, is they're hoping that the vast majority of people who are buying it are doing the impulse buy stuff so that they feel good about the impulse buy, but they don't actually do the work later. You know what I mean? I think that's what they're doing. Because I see all of these people being like, oh, I've got my walker pad. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. So many reviews, and not a single fucking review talking about how, or very few reviews talking about how they fucking break almost in, you know, within a few weeks of actually like consistent use. Kind of crazy. I already take lots of walks, so it feels like a good thing for me. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, is so that I could do video editing or research or gaming while I can actually walk, so that I'm, not just being a lazy ass, right? I'm gonna do that right there. But yeah, Brianna is not wrong. This is the kind of stuff that we should screen for when we're allowing people into the country on green cards, on visas, and stuff like that. And if they lie about this stuff, then we should not allow them in the country. And yes, this is limiting the free speech of foreigners who are trying to enter the country, 100%. You only get the full free speech rights when you're here and when you're an American citizen. So the thing about it is that I do not believe that we should extend the full free speech rights to people who are here at our suffrage, right? We are suffering these people to be here. We don't have to have them here. And so if they say things like this, like, I understand there's a line. I know. Because like, as soon as they start criticizing the American government, right? Is that where we're going? And unfortunately, what are we supposed to do? Are we literally supposed to allow death cults who want to destroy us into our country when they openly avow they want to destroy our empires? What about the ones that actively say that they want to murder people in the name of Islam? Are we allowed to allow those people to come in because they have free speech rights? That's the contention, right? Now, we all know that calls to action, calls to violence, all these things, these are not even legal for American citizens to do. But what about when you are openly supporting organizations that the United States government has deemed terror organizations? I know this also gets into the fucking thing of with the homegrown terrorists and all this other bullshit, but this is a conversation we have to have, because this is about national security, right? And the problem with national security is that when your life is on the line, when your security is on the line, yes, indeed, you absolutely can do these things, and we do. We all everybody knows this is exactly what you do. It's absolutely the pragmatic thing to do. Why do you suspend voting rights when you go to war in Europe? Why do European countries declare martial law? They suspend voting rights because it's an emergency. That's why. And then because they're liberal nations, when they come out of the time of war, they give those powers back, right? Easy. But if somebody says that they give their unconditional support to Hamas, should they be allowed in the United States because they have free speech? Even though these people have, like, let me put it to you like this. This is something that I would ask somebody who would argue against me from the left. Should we allow people who openly avow neo-Nazi views into the country as immigrants? And if let's say Albonia, the country is a neo-Nazi state, right? It's a Christo-fascist state, much like some of the Islamic nations. Iran, perfect example. It's like Iran, but Nazis, white people Nazis. And a bunch of Albanians are here. They're over here on student visas, and they're on campuses, and what they're doing is they're waving around Nazi flags, and they're saying death to the American empire, right? And they're being anti-Semitic and racist toward the Jewish students, and toward blacks, and toward non-white people. Should we be allowed to just fucking deport them? Should we be allowed to cancel their green cards and kick them the fuck out? Because the thing about it is that if you would say yes to the fucking Nazis, but you won't say yes to the Islamists because... Is it because they're brown? Is it because you're fucking racist? Because if you're a fucking racist, I understand. But if you're not doing this because you're a racist, that's not a good enough reason. Because the thing about self-defense is that you are allowed to do a lot of fucked up shit to defend yourself. And you should be allowed to. And especially when the defense of yourself is when you're defending your state. Right? We do all kinds of fucked up shit to defend our state, and the vast majority of people agree with the fucked up shit that has to be done to defend the state, right? When we are we to allow pirates to just destroy our shipping? Are we allowed to just attack our ships, or do we murder the pirates? We murder the pirates. Almost everybody agrees that real pirates get murdered. The only pirates that are cool are the ones in the storybooks. You know, that we read to children. Yeah, those are the cool ones, right? Yeah, those are cool, right? Because you can spin it just right, and you can make it to where, oh, he's just a pirate because he was against slavery and they tried to get him to ship slaves and he said no, and that made him a pirate. And this is and the reason I'm talking about this and the other thing specifically is because I want this. We need to have this discussion because I don't know what the right answer is. Like, I feel like when we talk about free speech, this is an inalienable right that comes from God, right? I know I'm an atheist. Just fucking roll with it, okay? But it comes from God, right? So that means, according to essentially the faith on which this ideal comes from, is that it is universal to all human beings, no matter your skin color or any of the other immutable characteristics that you have, right? So it doesn't matter if you're brown, black, green, blue. You could be a fucking Vulcan, right? Tellarites deserve free speech because it comes from God, right? God creates all things. That means universally we should all be the same in the eyes of God. Therefore, it applies to fucking everyone. However, pragmatically, we know this is not the truth because, like, for instance, we don't allow most foreigners to vote in our elections unless they become American citizens, right? Like, that's just one of the things. There are countless other privileges that citizens get that others don't. But as far as like basic rights, they all pretty much get the same, right? So if you're arrested in the United States and you are a foreigner, then you are expected to be treated as if you were an American citizen under most circumstances, right? You know, if you're jaywalking and the police gives you a ticket, they would treat you like they would an American citizen, maybe sans some like paperwork stuff, right? Bureaucratic things. Yeah, stuff like that. So if you were to get arrested and suspected of a crime, you know, it's not like they can just throw you in a jail cell for indefinite detention for 5 years before they just like throw your ass out of the country. Like, they can't do that because that does violate your basic human rights. But does that extend to people who are calling for the overthrow of our country, right? Against the democratic will of the people? Should we tolerate that? And I don't think we should. I think we should draw the line there. And I do think it's a very fuzzy line. I do. But there is a line that we cannot allow this because it will destroy us. If we allow these people to subvert our country, it will end up in our destruction. We will suffer for it. And so this is one of those instances in which we actually do have to be pragmatic about this. And not jaywalking is stupid. I know, I agree, it was just an example. Stability when working is very important. But yes, we really should be screening for this. Now, if you're an American citizen and you have these views, like, that's your right. And unfortunately, that's just the way the system works. That has to be, we cannot do it to our own. Like, you could say, this is the problem with the argument that I just made, and I'm going to point out what the problem is right here, is that you could then turn around and just apply it to fucking citizens. Well, you know, we're protecting ourselves, so pragmatically, you know, these citizens who have these disdainful views, blah, 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 yes. But the thing really does come down to, do citizens get more protection under the law than foreigners? And my answer to that is that the answer should be yes, I think, right? Because as a foreigner, we suffer your existence. Until you become a citizen, until you have proven that you want to be here and you can integrate into our society, like it's like this. And like I said, it's the same. Like, I'm gonna keep using the Albanian Nazis. Let's keep doing the Albanian Nazis, shall we? Because the thing about it is like every time I make an appeal to the fact that Islam is a goddamn death cult and these people want to destroy the American empire, oh, you know, they just mean they want us to stop bombing them and stuff like that. They mean they want us to stop the violence that that America does, you know, and all this, and they'll equivocate, carry water, make excuses when, you know, and then these motherfuckers defend shit like this, right? So, hashtag not all, but yeah, it's a pain in the dick, right? And so, it really is difficult because you have to parse between these two. But the point of our government is not just to protect the rights of its citizens. It's also to continue itself. and our country and our culture. Like, this is not something that's like necessarily baked into the Constitution in and of itself, but it is the pragmatic goal of every government's pragmatic goal should be to serve its people. Even in a monarchy, the ideal monarchy should be the monarch is a servant of the people just as much as the people are a servant of the monarch, right? That is the ideal philosopher king way of looking at how a monarchy should be run. Because it would provide the obviously most stable, most beneficial for everyone, including the king in most instances, country that you could possibly have. But anyway, enough of that. And so it's really tough because there really is a fine line. It's like, so if you have somebody, so the Albanian Nazi comes over here, he's, you know, covered in Nazi tattoos, he's fucking fully flying the flag. These are things that if you were an American citizen, you could do, and the police couldn't do shit about it. Immigration couldn't do shit about it because you're an American citizen. You have the right to say and believe whatever the fuck you want. Do foreigners? That's the question. If you're here as a foreigner, as a guest in our country, do you have the right to believe and say whatever the fuck you want? I mean, you definitely have the right to believe whatever you want, but do you have the right to express those views here? And it's like, I don't know if that should be allowed. There are some things that foreigners should not be allowed to espouse, I do believe. Because should we allow neo-Nazis to immigrate to the United States, from Albania to the United States, and like go to colleges here and do what they're doing? Like, do you think this would be allowed if this dude were an Albanian neo-Nazi, covered in Nazi tattoos, flying Nazi flags? Do you think this would be tolerated at all? What about this? If this guy were an Albanian neo-Nazi, do you think this shit would be tolerated? Do you think all of these progs we've bending over fucking backwards to show their assholes so they can get fucked? No, I don't think so. I think they'd be screaming fucking bloody murder. But because they're brown and because they're Muslim, they fucking can't fucking see straight. Like, Destiny is 100% correct that progressives literally get cucked because they do not have the ability to criticize brown people and minorities in general. And it is absolutely destroying them. Because you are allowing the worst of the worst of the worst examples of these people to percolate up into acceptable discourse. Right? It's just like now that the right is in ascendancy, you see a lot more racism and fucking, carrying water for fascism and stuff like that on X and on other social media platforms, not just X. And it's because they feel emboldened. And they do. They do. But the vast majority of people on the right that I see, for the most part, absolutely 100% are like, no, fuck them. That's not me. They do not represent us. And I 100% agree with that. Just like I know this motherfucker's views don't represent the vast majority of people on Blue Team. But for some reason, they allow this motherfucker to be their face, and I have no idea why. Because like I said, if you were to sit one of these motherfuckers down, one of these liberal motherfuckers, and you were to do that, you were basically to take all of the Islam stuff, but you phrase it in the terms of neo-Nazis, I guarantee you they'd say deport them all. If there were 20 million Albanian neo-Nazis that came across the border instead of fucking Mexicans and El Salvadorians and fucking Venezuelans, if they were Albanian Nazis, I guarantee you the Democratic Party would be pro-deportation. But again, it really feels like simply because they're not white and or not Christian, that allows them to get away with fucking murder, essentially. Or the equivalent of. And like, I can't see how this is not going to continue to make them lose. Because as much bullshit as Trump is doing, he's not down in the polls as much as one would expect for how much the Democrats are screaming about how evil he is and how much of a Nazi he is. And normally the party in power is the one that gets shafted in the midterms. And at this point, usually the opposition party is, 5, 10, sometimes 20 points ahead in the polls. The Democrats are up +1. And the margin of error is like ±2, I think was what CNN said. That's catastrophic. And it's like the Democrats are posting that they're doing these rallies in like Idaho and all this other stuff with Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, and I'm like, yeah, sure, man, get your people riled up, but like, is that gonna move the polls? Right? Is that gonna help you in the midterms? Don't know. We'll see. It might be a good strategy. AOC is not stupid. Bernie Sanders, as dumb as he sounds sometimes, he's not stupid, and he's been around since and he's been around since the civil rights era. He was there. He sat in those lines. So he's got the clout. And it's weird how he's looked 80 years old for like 50 years, right? Rooting out extremists for the longest time, yeah, perhaps a byproduct, the core part of their way of thinking. I don't know, man. And that's the thing is like, and that's the problem is that it's the left, it's progressives that are the problem. It is not necessarily liberals. The problem the liberals has is not that they're excusing or carrying water for this behavior necessarily. It's that they don't fucking say anything about it and allow themselves to be browbeat by fucking progressives over it. By calling them racists and Nazis and shit like that. Like, bro, get a fucking tougher skin. Like, if you can't handle some retard calling you a Nazi, you probably shouldn't be in public discourse at all. Because, like, people are going to call you names, man. People are hateful and bigoted, and they absolutely will shit all over you if you're doing better than them. Because because you look like a shining star, a glorious angel compared to them, they will hate you for it. The vast majority of people I have met and I have known. I mean, I've had this thing happen to me. It happened to me when me and my wife got together when we first started dating. And I felt so much shame when I realized that the reason I felt bad and I felt the way I did was because my then girlfriend was making me look bad by comparison, right? She was doing good things, literally cleaning up our room, and I'm sitting my lazy ass on the couch doing nothing. I'm not participating in anything. I'm not doing any work. I'm not helping anymore. And she's just and she's cleaning, and it made me feel bad. And why did it make me feel bad? Because by comparison, I looked like shit. And so what did I do? I changed. But you have to do. Because if you allow that anger and that hate to consume you, well, we all know where that leads. We all know where that leads. This one right here. So when you allow that envy, that hatred to like take place in your heart, this is the demon you become. You become jealous. You become hateful, spiteful, for no reason. Like I said, I was very ashamed of myself for feeling this way. And it finally clicked that I had been doing it almost my entire life in various different ways. And without even realizing it. Without realizing that I was falling down this deep, dark hole that was turning me into fucking this guy. Now, I don't have the fucking wizard powers, unfortunately. I would totally do that. You know, big man if you're listening. But, I thought it was spelled with a K. My brain was having a fucking retard moment. But yeah, that's where it goes. And I don't even know how I got on this tangent. Holy shit, dude. I was like, wait, how did we get here? Oh, thank you, brain. But anyway, that's what it was, is that you need to have the actual liberals, you know, my boys, need to grow a thicker skin and stand up to these people and be like, and assert themselves as liberals. And this is the problem with the Democratic Party, I do believe, is that they really do lack masculine role models, true masculine role models. Tim Wall is not masculine. He's just not, right? It's like, it's the most anti-masculine things that you could have done that he did in the worst possible way. And it turns you off. And the reason is because he's an old dude. That's what it is. And so you gotta, if you're Tim Walls and you're doing, and you want to persuade young men with masculinity, you don't need to do what he did, right? Especially if you're not an actual gamer and then you try to pretend that you're playing video games, whether you're pretending or not. If it doesn't look natural, it's just not gonna fly. Dude. Like any gamer can see through you, dude. Anybody who plays video games can see through you. That's not gonna appeal to that's not gonna appeal to any dude. Just really not, unless they're already on your team. And so you have to play it correctly for your demographic and your age group. So, or your demographics essentially. And so for Tim Walz, I think the more, if he wanted to exude more masculinity, that his job, instead of trying to pretend to be like a crazy old man who's got too much energy, then he should have gone with the more quiet, assertive masculinity, right? That's like Granddad. You know what I mean? Granddad doesn't need to raise his voice. Granddad's got strong hands. Doesn't need to raise his voice. People listen when he speaks. Yep. That was my granddaddy. And it was true. It was very true. He very rarely, did he whoop my ass? Yes, but it was rare. And it was because he didn't need to whoop my ass to get me to fucking stand up straight and do the right things most of the time. Because his mere fucking presence did a pretty good job, if you know what I mean. And I think that's the problem with Tim Walz, is that he's trying to be so like, what's the word I'm looking for? He's trying to be so flamboyant. Is that a good word? Maybe not. But that's the vibe I get. He's trying to be so flamboyant that it comes off as fake, right? Trying too hard. I don't need to pretend to be masculine. If I want to talk to young men, I'm just going to talk. They're going, and if they listen, they listen. If they don't, fuck them. It's like, you're not going to make it, bro. You're not going to make it. Simple as. All right. So this then turns into this. And this is a thing this is another part where I'm really torn on what to do. Because you have this situation where it feels like weaponized incompetence was used against the American people in our government with the asylum program, so that criminal aliens who crossed our border illegally to come to this country and work under the table and potentially commit like fraud to get a social security number. And, you know, and many of these people are enslaved to the cartels, like all of this bad shit that's related to this. These people were essentially allowed to claim asylum and then just let loose into the country with a court date down the road. And my contention with this is, it's like, it sounds retarded because it kind of is, right? Because if this person had bad intentions, they could literally just ditch the phone, throw the court papers away, and disappear into the United States. And where the fuck are you going to find them? They go to some sanctuary city and they get arrested in 2 years for committing armed robbery. They're not going to turn them over to ICE. Are you crazy? Like, this is the problem with what's happened. And so we've used this system was used to abuse and tyrannize our citizens. And all the people screaming that Trump is breaking the rules, and it's like, why were you not screaming when Biden was breaking the rules to do what Trump is trying to fix? Right? I agree. The rules are being broken. The question is, should they be? And that's the rub, right? Should they be? Because if it gets bad enough, then of course rules can be broken. And all you have to do is enact powers to do so. And unfortunately, the Alien Enemies Act nope, that's not it. There we go. National Archive, Alien Enemies Act. Let's go over this, shall we? Oh, nice. It doesn't glare as much. I turned down my screen brightness, and now it doesn't glare nearly as much on my forehead. So, it's concerning aliens. We went through this, and basically what it came down to is that Each state having criminal jurisdiction. Here we go. It shall be the duty of several courts of the United States. Here's where they get the due process. And of each state having criminal jurisdiction, and several judges and justices of the courts of the United States, they shall be, and hereby respectively, authorized upon complaint against any alien or enemies who shall be resident and at large in such jurisdiction or district to the danger of public safety and peace, and contrary to the tenor and intent of such proclamation or other regulations of the President of the United States, shall and may establish. God damn, dude. To cause, so basically the courts are empowered because they have criminal jurisdiction over these places, they are empowered to cause such aliens to be duly apprehended and convened before a court, judge, or justice, and after a full examination and hearing. So there it is, and hearing. So it's right here. Kadoosh. I need to, you know what? I'm going to save this. Kadoosh. Section 2, baby. Bam. Save that bad boy. Give it a bebop. All right, there we go. So they need to be duly apprehended and convened before such court, judge, or justice. So basically, day in court. And then after a full examination and hearing on such complaint. So all of this right here is the due process. So essentially, if I'm reading this correctly, the only thing that is required is that they be apprehended and that they be given a day in court in front of a judge. It doesn't say specifically what kind of judge, and only after a full examination and hearing on such complaint. So it's not like there has to be like a fucking jury trial. Literally, just before a judge, the judge looks over it, here's the complaint of the government, then he hears the rebuttal from the alien who is to be deported, and then the judge makes the ruling. That is apparently what is supposed to happen. Right? Got an A-. Let's go. Nice. And sufficient cause thereof. I'm gonna go got an exam. Oh, nice, dude. Excellent. Congratulations, my friend. Cheers, my dude. Cheers. So once they've had their day in court and sufficient cause has been given, the court shall and may order such alien or aliens to be removed out of the territory of the United States, or given sureties of good behavior. So if the individual the complaint is against gives sureties of their good behavior, then they can. I'm assuming it's like, hey, pledge loyalty that you're not gonna fucking like be a terrorist, and we're good. You know, that kind of thing. Because you got to remember, this shit was written in 1798, so like words like honor meant a little bit something different. Words, you know, giving your word meant a lot back then. Not really, but that's how they pretended to act. You know what I'm saying? They at least wanted to pretend that was the thing. Anyway, and so they shall be and they shall be restrained comfortably to the proclamation and regulations, which shall and may establish and may imprison and otherwise secure the alien until the order shall be made, aforesaid shall be performed. So basically, they have to have their day in court. The case must be examined before a judge or justice, and upon finding sufficient cause, they may be deported. Or excuse me, upon finding sufficient cause, they may be restrained or imprisoned until such time as the order may be performed. And if you follow this up here, that when restrained or imprisoned, it must be consistent, or excuse me, it must be with the dictates of humanity and national hospitality, right? Or no, that's the amount of time. Excuse me, I'm sorry, that's a misunderstanding. This part is about the amount of time. My bad. Disregard what I just said. And this empowers the duty of the marshal in the court districts where the aliens reside to do things. We don't need to go over that. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So yes, they are required to have their day in court. And once they've had their day in court, their case is examined. They can, and if due cause is found, they can be removed. It must be in a time. I believe this. The way this is worded, it must be in a timely fashion, and they must be. And if they are imprisoned, and they may be imprisoned or restrained until the order can be performed. And obviously, if you're restraining or imprisoning someone, they should be treated with all due human rights. Obviously, no fucking torture, stripping of clothes, none of that bullshit. No. You treat them with dignity, humanity, all that stupid shit, right? I know. But you have to, because that's the right thing to do. End of story. I'm going to bookmark this motherfucker, because we're going to get back to it. Okay, so we've reestablished what I thought. So let's listen to what this motherfucker has to say. I really like this dude simply because he is a fucking dog fighter. Right? This guy is a pit bull. And I fucking love how he just shits on journos. It's really funny. That doesn't make him right or a good person. So, and I hate the fact that I have to fucking qualify when I talk like that. Because it's like, I did not say he was a good person. I did not say he was right. I said he makes a good attack dog, and it's funny when he shits on journalists. The fact that I have to say that doesn't make him right means that someone who listened to that and would like if I said that on Twitter, right? Somebody would be like, "Oh, you must think he's right about everything then." And it's like, "No, that makes you a fucking idiot. If you think me giving him a compliment that he's a good attack dog makes you think that I think he's right about everything, then you would be a retard. Like an actual one, the ones that have no excuse because you're of normal intelligence, so you have no excuse for being so goddamn retarded. Let's go.
And I just wish we lived in a country where the media...
Okay. Un momento. Por favor.
Gave to 1/10 a damn as much.
There we go. Ready?
And I just wish we lived in a country where the media gave to 1/10 a damn as much about Americans who were murdered and brutalized and savagely killed, beaten to death, as they did about whether illegal aliens that we all agree are illegal aliens should get 1 million days in court and 1 million trials and 1 million this and 1 million that. There's 15 million illegal aliens that violently enter the country. If every one of them got the trial that you're asking for, it would take us centuries to remove them. Centuries. We've been talking about this in 300-400 years. Their great-great-great-grandchildren would be the ones representing them in court. That's how long it would take. Illegal aliens who come to our country have to be removed, and they have to be removed quickly, and that is an essential component of having something that we like to call a country. And I just wish we lived in a country where the media gave to 1/10 a damn.
Okay, so let's analyze. This is an emotional argument, an appeal to emotion. It's a good one. I mean, the media makes the same thing when they're talking about the poor baby angel illegal aliens, MS-13 gang members who come over here and rape and murder babies. And they defend them for that. So, he's making an argument. And yes, I'm being facetious and ironic, so fuck you. Because, honestly, it does feel that way. Obviously, that's not what they're doing. Not in all instances, anyway. I'm sure some of them are skeevy assholes that absolutely are defending actual gang members who rape and murder babies. But obviously, that's not what the vast majority of them are doing. So, but it does feel like they care more about the criminal aliens than they do about the American victims of these criminal aliens as a whole, like demographic group. Let's put it like this. If you ask these journalists which group matters more, American citizens that are being victimized by criminal aliens or criminal aliens, which one would they say? Oh, Amazing Barrel, I got you, baby. I got you. Damn, dude, I'm so sorry, babe. You did that like 5 minutes ago. This is me ranting. What can I say? Anyway, where was I at? Oh, if you ask them which group should deserve more sympathy, Would they say American citizens who are being victimized by criminal aliens? I would hope so. But it feels like they would say the criminal aliens. That's what it feels like. I don't know if that's true. That might be my own bias against like mainstream journalism. Mainstream journalists, not journalism. There are good things, even admirable things about bad men. Yes, exactly. Just like, you know, Abraham Lincoln was a fucking tyrant. He suspended habeas corpus. He jailed people indefinitely. He jailed journalists. He did all these things. Yet he's the great emancipator. He's one of the greatest presidents in American history. And almost every American agrees that he pretty much did the right thing. With, you know, could he have done better? Sure. But you're talking fog of war, right? So, on that note, my friend, Amazing Barrel, has activated the most amazing trap card in human history. It's called the Simultaneous Sip. And all you got to do, my dude, is grab that cup or mug or glass. Perhaps you have a tankard, chalice, or a stein. Maybe a canteen, jug, or flask. A vessel of any kind. You fill it with your favorite fluid. I like. That's right, the morning coffee. Deliciously, magnificently Tango made. Enjoy now, friends, with the gloriousness, the stupendosity, the absolute awesome sauceness. It is the simultaneous set. I'm making out with the mic, right? And it's happening right. Freaking out. Go. Anyway, so yeah, let's break this down. So he appeals to emotion, and like I said, it does feel like, especially journos on blue team, care more about criminal aliens than they do about American citizens who are being victimized by criminal aliens.
Damn as much about Americans who were murdered and brutalized and savagely killed, beaten.
It's just virtual points on the internet. I don't care enough to spam. Fair enough.
To death as they did about whether illegal aliens that we all agree are illegal aliens should get a million days in court and a million trials and a million this and a million that. There's 15 million illegal aliens that violate into the country. And a million trials and a million this and a million that.
They're technically supposed to. So let's remember, we read the Alien Sedition Act, right? We read that. I did it right here. It was in black and white. And by my interpretation, which is, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, any of that bullshit. But it's, you know, relatively, it's not that hard to parse through if you know how they used to speak back then and how they used to write. You can parse through it. It's not hard. It's not the hardest thing. But it does say that they are required to have their day in court and before a judge or justice. Now, does that mean you can't like put 50 of them in a courtroom and then the judge just look over the paperwork? Oh yeah, you're an illegal criminal, you're an illegal criminal, you're an illegal criminal, you're an illegal criminal, you're an illegal criminal. Here's, yeah, stamp, gavel, 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 and just fucking run them through. Technically, yeah, you could do that. That's what they do in FISA courts, you know? You know, when they get warrants to spy on your ass? Yeah, that's what they do. So why can't we do it to them? If they can do it to us, why can't we do it to them? Kind of weird, right?
15 million illegal aliens that violate into the country. If every one of them got the trial that you're asking for, it would take us centuries to remove them.
See, this is the problem, right? This right here. I don't know if he's correct, but I feel like he is. I feel like there's a fat ass, massive grain, like, you know, mega sized butt plug fucking size grain of truth in what he's talking about. Let's listen to that again.
Every one of them got the trial that you're asking for, it would take us centuries to remove them. Centuries. We've been talking about this in 300-400 years.
So after this, when he's making a joke and an appeal to emotion. Also, god damn, dude, that fucking vein on his head.
They're great.
Massive. I mean, I guess it just speaks to how just like he has like villain physiognomy or whatever the fuck that is. Physiognomy. He really does. He looks like a movie villain, and it's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, it works for him. Judge, what's the difference between a judge and a justice? You know what? That's a very good fucking question. Let's find out. Let's you know what? Let's ask Rock. Difference in the U.S. between a judge and a justice. That's some anime shit, right? Wouldn't it? Yeah, dude, he does. A justice presides over lower court levels, such as federal, district courts, state trials. A justice is a judge serving on a higher court. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So, Supreme Court justices, okay, or state Supreme Courts. Justice is a prestigious title reserved for these apex courts. Okay, yeah, so there it is. A judge is just your normal judge, and a justice is a title for a judge who serves on a higher court. Bing, bang, boom, baby. Get at it. So there you go. So the reason they include that is because I would assume the reason they include judge or justice is so that they explicitly are stating that that the upper courts, the state Supreme Court or the federal Supreme Court can adjudicate these matters if you're not satisfied on a lower court level. So so it's just like how the latest one with the guy from the guy who was in Maryland, that criminal alien who they say who's the MS-13 not MS-13 guy. Yeah, that guy. He that's why it was able to go to the Supreme Court, is because it specifically says in the Alien Enemies Act that it can be seen by justice. I'm assuming that was added like as an amendment later, like during, you know, when they're negotiating how the bill is supposed to be sounded. I'm assuming the reason there's all these commas and aforementioned and all this other shit is because people are like, you know, in this instance, in this extreme 1% instance where this may happen, we need to include language that explicitly allows this. That's probably why it sounds so fucking wordy with so many commas and aforementions and all that other bullshit in there. But this is the problem that I'm having with the people who are complaining about the rules being broken, is that the rules were broken, or let me rephrase that. The rules were broken, and the spirit of the law was subverted to allow this to happen. Because think about it like this: Congress passes laws that allow that say it's illegal to enter the country, right? But then the president turns around and I think this was an executive order. I may be wrong. You know what? We should ask Rock, but I'll ask him in just a second. So essentially what I think happened is that Biden, I think he used an executive order. I'm not sure. I need to look this up, and I will in just a second. But he changed the way asylum is done so that people who did break the law and cross the border illegally could apply for asylum and be given the same privileges as an asylum seeker who came to a port of entry. So that then you could have criminal aliens come across the border once they get, and then if they get caught, instead of being immediately deported like they should be, they can claim asylum, and then they get to stay here, and then they literally just get to fucking disappear out into the middle of the country, wherever they fucking want to go, right? Because if you give them a phone and a court date, and then they ditch their phone and they throw away their court paperwork, and they go to California, San Francisco, New York City, what the fuck are you gonna do? They could just disappear. And you've just allowed a potential risk to the country who could victimize countless people into the country. And we don't know where they are. We don't know where they're going. Now, this is not necessarily the vast majority of these individuals, but the problem is that this will allow them to hide. This hides the criminal underbelly that exists in this world. This allows the abuse, the enslavement, the sex trafficking of these migrants who just want a better life. All for virtue signal points. That's what it feels like. And so the nature of the law was subverted. Not the nature of the law. What's the word? The spirit of the law was subverted. Congress passed a law that says it's illegal to enter the United States. And then the president of the United States used his executive power to subvert that law by allowing those people who broke that law to still claim asylum. Was that right? Was that the right thing to do? I don't think it was. And so now you have a situation where you have a previous administration who subverted the law. And now the same people who didn't complain about the subversion of the law, they wanted the subversion of the law. They wanted the executive branch to subvert the duly passed law done by Congress. They wanted that. They cheered for it. And now that we have a new administration that has the democratic will of the people behind it, no matter how much they bitch about how it's not a mandate, every fucking county in the entire country shifted red. Fuck you. So you have the new administration, which was duly elected by the people, who want this shit fixed. And so now, the people who are complaining that Trump is breaking the rules are the same people who cheered Biden when he did it, when he subverted that law, when he bypassed Congress to allow this to happen. And so if he allowed that to happen, are we still then required in an emergency, because that's what it is, that's what I would consider it, to do this is the tough part. Are we then allowed to turn around and break the rules too? And I don't think we are. I think we have to change it, and that's the problem. It's like, so do we continue to allow this? And I don't know what the right answer is. So this is the contingent. There's 15 million illegal aliens. If every one of them got a trial, it would take centuries. So basically, the fact that the law was subverted in this way has put an undue burden upon the United States government and the people for these due processes that are required. Does that mean that we can suspend them? I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe. Again, Lincoln fucking did it, and everybody fucking praises him, right? In hindsight, yeah, sure. Are we there yet? I don't know. I don't think we are. So I don't know. I think what we need to do is we need to change it. And I don't know if Trump can do so by fucking fiat. Or excuse me, by dictate, sorry. And this was part of the Biden regime open border calculus. That's an opinion. Overload the country by any means necessary, with as many unvetted illegals as possible. This does appear to be, I don't know if this was the goal or if this is just suicidal empathy, essentially, where it's like, oh, we got to help these, sweet, innocent baby angels. It doesn't matter that they're being sex trafficked. It doesn't matter that they're being enslaved. So it really does feel like this is what happened, either through suicidal empathy or if this was actual calculus that they were making so that they could simply overload the system so we'd never be able to fix it. And then we just have to deal with the fact that it had happened. And so is there no recourse? Is there no recompense for the fact that this law, that the spirit of the law was subverted, and potentially, I'm about to look into it, that the executive branch overreached when it did this with the asylum seeking thing, with allowing criminal aliens to apply for asylum after being caught? Did he overstep his power? And I'm gonna look at that up in a second. And we all remember the reports of, children being flown all across the country from the border, and people being put on planes and flown all across the country from the border, and just mass influx of migrants. Knowing the massive mobilization of resources and enforcement operations to remove them would be extraordinarily daunting, while simultaneously relying on heavily funded left-wing legal groups and activist groups to courts to delay, obstruct, and impede deportations at every turn possible. Yeah. This is going to happen regardless, which is so dumb that they would literally fight every deportation. They don't, but it feels like they want to, because there are probably plenty of cases where it would be a lot easier to gain sympathy and be able to get on side, and it really feels like we've bifurcated into two movies, one screen on this again, where half the country is seeing what Trump is doing as throwing people in fucking gulags and he's an evil dictator and all this other shit, and the other people are like, the past presidents were lame as shit and didn't fix the problem, and then the previous administration allowed this problem to escalate to extraordinary proportions, and now we're fixing it. That's basically the bifurcation we have, and I feel like I'm stuck in the middle, being like, I don't know fucking which way to go, because both are wrong and scary, and I don't know which is going to be. Pragmatically, I need to look at it like this: I don't give a fuck how moral it is. We need to do what's right for our country. And if what's right for our country is to allow these people to stay and to integrate them into our society, then fucking so be it. But if the opposite is true, then so fucking be it. I just don't know which. That's the problem. And it's like, so many people are complaining that Trump is breaking the rules, but why are we not holding the people who broke the rules to make this problem a problem to begin with? And this is the same problem I have with Doge, is that they're uncovering all this fucking fraud and nobody's being held accountable, it feels like. Why are we not charging anybody with fraud? Why are there no arrests being made? If people are committing fraud, It's illegal. Where? Why? DOJ, where you at? FBI, where you at? It must be still working on them Epstein files. Have you checked out BG3 Patch 8 yet? Came out yesterday. I have not. We might do that here in a little bit. We're gonna get into gaming here in a minute. In like 2 days, Last Epoch comes out. So this is my conundrum. This is where I'm at, and I'm just like, I don't fucking know, dude. I really don't. Because like, I'm gonna tell you my biases. This is how I feel. This is my bias. I feel like as I've described, the previous administration, either through gross incompetence or actual calculus and malice or suicidal empathy, like those are the three options. There may be more. I don't know. Those are the three those are the three possibilities, right? We're being, what is it? We're being this guy today, right? Let's be this guy. Make sure we're this guy. Let's be this guy right here, right? Possibilities, advantages, and disadvantages. That's what we're doing, okay? Remember the meme? Remember the meme? This the meme. This the meme. This meme. Meme. Okay. And so for me, it feels like I said, those are the three possibilities. And none of them are good. And so the spirit and the nature of the law was subverted through one of those three possibilities. And now basically the people who cheered that on and were supportive of that are now losing their goddamn minds that the current administration is doing a very similar thing, as in breaking the rules and subverting the law, the nature of it, and so forth, when they didn't have that same zeal before. When they didn't have the same zeal when it looked like the Biden administration was trafficking children across the United States. And that's why it really fucking bothers me. It really fucking bothers me. And like I said, I don't know which way to go. I lean toward deporting them. Yeah, fucking deport them. I don't necessarily like the El Salvadorian prison shit, but if in a perfect world, we could assume that if in a perfect world, if only the MS-13 gang members went there, I would probably be in a lot more support of it. Right? But we know that innocents are going to get caught up in it. So I'm not as supportive of it because of that. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't. Just because I don't support it doesn't mean I'm going to fight against it. Is that what you mean? Because it's like it's one of the fights that I just don't really give a fuck about. As long as we can set up accountability and assurances that people who actually are not these dangerous, crazy, fucking terrorist cartel members aren't, as long as they're the only ones that go there, and we can at least take steps to ensure that we make as few mistakes as possible, then it's not a fight I'm willing to have. Just like with the justice system. If we have accountability in the police, if we have accountability in the courts, that people who are bad actors, that we try to minimize that as much as possible, then it's not really a fight I'm going to have that we should defund the fucking police or defund the fucking courts or get rid of prisons, right? I want to train. I want better training for the cops. I want more oversight for the courts. I want district attorneys to have more oversight, and I want them to be able to have more what's the word I'm looking for? Transparency in the things that they do, because I have heard those horror stories of district attorneys who prosecute people they know are innocent. They know are innocent. They actually have evidence in their own bullshit that they are innocent, and they just fucking do it anyway because they know they can get a conviction. It's so retarded, man. 12 new subclasses. Ooh, photo mode, crossplay, bunch of smaller improvements. Sadly, they say it's the final big patch, so only fixes now. Aw. 12 new subclasses. That's interesting. I might take a look at that. And so, yeah, my bias is toward deporting the fuck out of everybody. If you are here on a visa or you are here on a green card and you chant "Death to America," deport them. Like that's the way I'm leaning. That's my biases at the moment. And I'm just gonna wear it on my sleeve, and we're gonna go from there. And I know these are my biases, right? I should probably start writing down my biases so I can have them on screen, so that when I look at stuff, when I look at the things that are going on, I can actually, look at that and be like, okay, I am biased toward liking this, and I am biased toward not liking other things, right? I am biased toward not liking Biden because of things like this. I am biased toward liking Trump because he's a fucking shit talker, right? I'm biased toward this guy because it's funny with the villain physiology and shit. I don't even know how to say that fucking word. Excuse me. Yeah. So again, oh yeah. Let's look up. Maybe I should ask Grok. Let's see. When did illegal aliens get the ability to claim asylum status after getting caught in the inside the U.S.'s borders? Let's see if Grok can answer the question, and then we can expound upon that. When did that happen? Okay, authorized to claim asylum, being apprehended at the border. Rooted, though did not have a clear standardized process. Deportations, default, caught inside the United States after 1980. Borders without authorization to claim asylum was formalized. Law applied to anyone physically, regardless of apply for asylum. Outdated. Unauthorized immigrants. Was it really? But we didn't have this problem in the 80s. Apprehended at the U.S. border have been able to request asylum during removal proceedings if they express fear, return to their country. So, am I wrong? International law, qualified. When did this? It's 2025. Okay, so who is this by? Council on Foreign Relations. Okay. Going violence, poverty. Clamp down on immigration. Reverse many of the policies. Maybe I should ask specifically about the Biden administration. While I read that, I'll do this. Did the Biden admin make it easier to claim asylum when unauthorized immigrants? I mean, that does sound like a more humane term, but I have George Carlin screaming in the back of my head about shell shock. And now it's post-traumatic stress syndrome. Did the Biden admin make it easier to claim asylum for... Did I not copy that? For unauthorized immigrants to be within U.S. borders. So, the right to asylum, Article 14. Yep. By the way, I am fully in support of people being able to come to our ports of entry and claim asylum, and I would absolutely give them people who have actual need of asylum, refugee status. 100%. Yes, I'm in favor of this. But that doesn't mean that everybody in the world who's got it hard needs to come here. Big difference. Is Grok done? In February, Biden admin suspended and later terminated MPP, remain in Mexico, which had required asylum seekers to wait in Mexico. This allowed unauthorized immigrants apprehended at the U.S. border to remain in the U.S. while so this is this right here. Title 42. Let me see. This allowed unauthorized immigrants apprehended at the U.S. border to remain in the U.S. while pursuing asylum claims, potentially making the process more accessible by avoiding dangerous conditions in Mexico. Asylum seekers with active cases were allowed to enter for processing. Okay, so basically everybody who had to stay in Mexico was then allowed in the United States. Odd. Initially continued the Trump era, which expelled migrants, including asylum seekers, without processing their claims, citing public health concerns. However, so that's about COVID. Migrants to seek asylum in those countries before applying in the U.S. This removal, okay, expansion of pathways. Here we go. Launched in 2023, the CBP One mobile app allowed migrants to schedule asylum appointments at ports of entry. Okay, that actually sounds like a good thing. Like I'm 100% in favor of this right here. If you could come to the port of entry and be like, I would like to claim asylum. Yes, here, see, use this QR code and this app to download this app so you can apply. Yeah, fuck paperwork. While primarily for those at the border, it indirectly benefited unauthorized immigrants within the U.S. by streamlining the process and reducing backlogs, potentially speeding up asylum hearings for those in removal proceedings. So it allowed people who already had removal proceedings to do this. 800,000 migrants in 2024 use this app. Work authorization. The admin expanded temporary protection status for 1.7 million unauthorized immigrants. An expedited work permit processing, reducing wait times to 9 months, as little as 2 weeks. That actually sounds like a good thing. Supported unauthorized immigrants, including asylum seekers, by allowing them to work legally while asylum making the process sustainable. See, this is the problem I do have, is that if you were caught here in the United States being an unauthorized immigrant, you should be deported. You should not be allowed to claim asylum. Period. End of story. Period. Allowed legal entry and work authorization while not directly for the... Yeah, I don't care about that. Restoration of asylum. Introduced resources, processing, including surging asylum offices or immigration judges. Reduced backlog. This is a good thing. More immigration judges are good. Yep, 100%. Like this is the shit that I was like, oh yeah, Biden got a win on this for me. Yep. More judges is good. And asylum officers. Good stuff. Aim to expedite credible fear interviews and asylum hearings of unauthorized immigrants, making the process more efficient. Always down for that. Grant asylum directly and straightforward, bypassing immigration courts, which could benefit unauthorized immigrants with strong claims. So, 2022, a rule allowed asylum officers to grant asylum directly in straightforward cases, bypassing immigration courts, which could benefit unauthorized immigrants and strong claims by reducing wait times. This applied to a limited number of cases. That's probably like a cost-benefit analysis that needs to be broken down to see if this would be good or bad. It sounds bad on the face of it, but that doesn't necessarily make it so. Circumvention of lawful pathways. This rule, also called asylum ban, made unauthorized immigrants ineligible for asylum if they crossed the border without applying for protection in a third country, e.g. Mexico, or scheduling CBP1 appointment unless they qualified for exceptions, trafficking victims, unaccompanied minors. I like unaccompanied minors, like what a fucking word, dude. What a word. For those apprehended at the U.S. border, this raised the bar for asylum eligibility, which is a good thing, requiring them to prove they meet the exception or face expedited removal. Critics argued this echoed Trump-era restrictions and limited access to asylum. Yes. Yes, it did. Good. June 2024, Biden issued an executive order suspending asylum eligibility for unauthorized immigrants crossing between ports of entry when daily encounters exceeded 2,500. Yeah, okay, this was, yeah. I mean, I don't understand why there needed to be a number. Why did we not just suspend asylum eligibility for unauthorized immigrants, period? Because here's the thing. If you cross the border to get here, you walked right by a port of entry, right? You circumvented the port of entry. So instead of crossing the border illegally and circumventing the point of entry, you should have went to the point of entry. Just because you're a victim in another case doesn't give you the ability to break the law, right? This is like the argument that we're making right now, that even though this may have been caused by a previous administration that subverted the spirit of the law, or potentially the nature of the law, and potentially actually circumvented the law in and of itself, as I'm finding this might not be the case, so fair enough. As they're complaining that doesn't make it right for Trump to subvert the law, why do we not hold these unauthorized immigrants to the same standard? That if you break our laws, you do not get to turn around and claim victim status, even if you are a victim, right? Like this is like 101. Don't be fucking stupid. Because and the reason I say that is like, one of the reasons that you don't allow this kind of thing to happen is because it will be abused. You have to know that there are bad actors that will abuse this kind of thing. This applied to those apprehended at the border, but also affected unauthorized immigrants, limiting their ability to claim unless they could demonstrate exceptionally compelling circumstances. The order also introduced a shout test requiring immigrants to affirmatively express fear of persecution to trigger a credible fear interview, potentially causing some to be overlooked. These restrictions were tightened. Okay. Further, in September 2024, requiring daily encounters fall below 1,500. Okay. To lift the ban, making it nearly permanent. Fair enough. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's a win in a way. Like I said, I don't think there should be a fucking number attached to it. Just pure and simple. If you bypass the port of entry, you don't get to claim to be a victim. That's how you get people to abuse you. That's what that is. That's just a flat standard, right? Let everybody know. Go to the port of entry. Make your claim there. Rule raised credible fear standard requiring more evidence. Excellent. That sounds great. Deportation surge. The Biden administration deported unauthorized 271,000. That's my ADHD or dyslexia. I don't know which one it is. To a 10-year high, surpassing Trump's 2019 peak. While asylum seekers could still request credible fear interview, the focus expedited removal for those without a legal basis to remain increased pressure on unauthorized immigrants to navigate the asylum process. Excellent. Restore access to asylum processes, aligning with the Refugee Act provisioning, expanding TPS work permits. Programs supported unauthorized immigrants, including asylum seekers, by providing legal protections and economic stability during the lengthy process. Increased asylum officers and streamlined process. Like, some of these are definitely wins. Like this one right here, more police, more judges, more efficient. 100% good. That's like fat W. There's very little like you could criticize about that, unless you're going into like corruption within the bureaucracy, and that's a whole other argument, right? So ending the third country safety requirement, that made it easier. Allowing them to claim asylum. Because the thing about it is that, they have to have a credible thing, but you're some random fucko with no paperwork. So all you have to do is literally say, MS-13 is hunting me because my family owned a shop and we refused to pay them. And they said if I didn't join them, they were going to kill me. Yeah. And you could be lying through your fucking teeth. And how are we going to know that? Right? That's my point. It's like, how do we know that any of the bullshit that you're saying is credible? Period. Like, it could be a complete fabrication. You could have never had any interaction with the cartels beside them getting you across the border. No, that doesn't mean it isn't true, but it also doesn't mean it is true, right? This is where if you don't, like, how are we supposed to know this? How are we supposed to adjudicate this correctly? You either believe them all or you don't, right? I'm not really sure what the point of that is. Harder in other aspects. So here you go. And this looks like it was all done under Biden. So big W there. Yeah. Under the Joe Biden administration. So, Big Joe got a W, man. Biden administration policies had mixed impact, made it easier during 2021, 2022. However, later policies driven by political pressure to curb border crossing. I'm not going to lie. A lot of his wins being done later in his administration does feel like it's for political purposes. And this is what I was talking about making it easier for people to get in, and like how many people came in during this bullshit, right? Claims on X as such assertions would let millions of illegals cross and let them claim asylum or allow parole abuse, reflect sentiment but lack verifiable data, and oversimplify the complex policy landscape. I actually agree with this. True. Because everybody's playing team sports. They will scream to the high heavens, 2 movies, 1 screen. They were not used as evidence due to their inconclusive nature. If you need specific details, further analysis, let me know. There we go. So, So they must already be physically present within the United States or at an official point of entry. I don't understand physically present within the United States unless you like flew here to claim asylum and you're like at an airport. But if you're at fucking Home Depot and they pick you up and then you claim asylum, that's an instant deport. Sorry. Go to the port of entry. Do it the right way. Go the fuck home. Temporary legal status, short-term visa holders. Generally must be done. And having like the giant migrant camps and stuff in New York, like the way they run those motherfuckers and just let them just be lawless is just no. This deadline does not apply for unaccompanied minor children. This is like the worst absolute thing I've ever like unaccompanied migrant. Like some of these kids are like fucking toddlers, man. I'm sure it's not a lot of them, but man, some of them are just so young. Like I could never see sending my little girl across the fucking border like that, dude. No. That's crazy, man. If asylum seekers' application is denied, they refer to immigration court for deportation proceedings, but can turn to the defensive asylum process. So, how many people, if their application were denied and they were referred to immigration for deportation, if they live in an asylum city, guess what? They don't get referred to deportation, do they? Because the local law enforcement doesn't do anything with ICE. So, right? If they're not immediately restrained and imprisoned upon right after their deportation proceedings, right? If they say, all right, you're getting deported, if they don't immediately arrest them then they could just disappear. Defensive asylum can request as a defense against deportation if their asylum application is denied or they are apprehended for lack of valid documentation. An immigration judge, if denied, they have... look. If they're denied, they have 30 days to petition. So if they're denied, they have 30 days to petition. So what happens if they don't petition and they just go to New York? Right? What happens if they go to California? Right? San Francisco. LA. What happens? Do they just... Do they get off? Or will the sanctuary city turn them over to ICE for deportation? Don't know. They can appeal their still to federal court, which is rare cases to the Supreme Court, before they are deported. Other defenses against deportation include citing credible fear. Okay. Expedited asylum or given the authority. Blah, 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 blah. Migrants are found to have credible fears of persecution. Migrants who passed their asylum merit interview had previously waited years. Yeah, the wait time is definitely part of the problem. And if these things were able to be adjudicated faster, then we wouldn't have nearly as much problem, right? But of course, when you have an essentially what many would consider an open border, and then you get all of this backlog, and you don't have the bureaucracy to be able to facilitate it quickly, then it turns into this problem where you're getting hundreds of thousands of people at a time coming over, and it just builds up millions upon millions at a time over time, and then they have like their court cases, 5 to 10 years down the road in some cases. Once claim is submitted, founded, serious burden of proof, unlike criminal, do not have the right to government-appointed counsel. Fair enough. They are, however, many non-profit faith-based organizations. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. 100%. I'm 100% okay with this right here. Boom. No problems. Basically, non-profit and faith-based organizations that give free legal representation to displaced people. Sure, whatever. These are American citizens doing what they want with their money. I don't really give a fuck. As long as they're not breaking any laws or committing fraud, I don't care. What happens after asylum seekers are approved? Okay, that's not what I want. See, that's the thing, is like the asylum argument for me is irrelevant because I don't care. I'm okay with asylum. I just don't want the system to be abused so that economic migrants, this argument right here, who can leave their home country in search of better jobs and opportunity to live and work in the country for years while asylum claims are in backlog. Some Republicans have put forward legislation to reduce the number of asylum seekers in the system, expediting deportations or raising the minimum standard. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Meanwhile, reform advocates say there are ways to uphold border security while preserving asylum access. They are preserving asylum access. They're just raising the bar so that it's harder to meet, which is fine, right? We are allowed to determine where the bar is set, and we want to prevent people who would take advantage of the system. Because like every time an economic migrant clogs up our system, that is an asylum seeker. Like, this is the thing. It's just like with the thing with the black kid who stabbed the white kid, with them lowering his bail and letting him out. When you don't hold criminals and abusers of the system to account, the true victims are the people that you're trying to help. So when you lower policing standards and when you get rid of the cops in these minority communities, the victims are the minorities. When you allow people who would abuse the system for economic migration or for criminal processes like the cartels and the gangs, when you allow them to clog up our system, who gets hurt? True asylum seekers. The people who actually need asylum, they get hurt because there's an entire fucking backlog that creates an absolute travesty of a situation. And not only that, it allows people like Republicans to use them as a whooping stick to raise the standards to raise the minimum standard, and to put more restrictions on their ability to seek asylum. So actual asylum seekers who don't have the proper paperwork and can't produce that minimum level of evidence, they're the ones that get hurt. Because we're allowing these people to abuse the system. We're allowing criminals to abuse the system. And when criminals abuse the system, the victims are their own fucking people in their communities. These migrants. Yeah, so hiring additional officers and immigration judges, 100%. This is shit my money should be going toward. Ensuring 6-month processing timeline, I don't know about that. Because like this is a goal. This is not how you this right here is a goal. That is not a way to make. There is no way to make that happen in this plan. That is a goal statement. I want it to only take 6 months. Okay, but we have 10 million people, and we've got 10 judges. It's gonna take centuries, right? As Dude Bro said. Now that's not true. That's probably just hyperbole, excuse me. So yeah, for this, it really fucking kills me. And so yeah, this is where, so yeah, like I said, look, big W's for Biden on some of the stuff he did. It does appear that a lot of the stuff that he did was due to political pressure for the election. But still, if you do the right thing, you do the right thing. It really doesn't matter why you do it most of the time. But yeah, so there you go.